Section 31. Manner of using premises pending redemption, waste restrained. Until the expiration of the time allowed for redemption, the court may, as in other proper cases, restrain the commission of waste on the property by injunction, on the application of the purchaser or the judgment obligee, with or without notice, but it is not waste for a person in possession of the property at the time of the sale, or entitled to possession afterwards, during the period allowed for redemption, to continue to use it in the same manner in which it was previously used, or to use it in the ordinary course of husbandry, or to make the necessary repairs to buildings thereon while he occupies the property. Section 32. Rents, earnings and income of property pending redemption. The purchaser or a redemptioner shall not be entitled to receive the rents, earnings and income of the property sold on execution, or the value of the use and occupation thereof when such property is in the possession of a tenant. All rents, earnings and income derived from the property pending redemption shall belong to the judgment obligor until the expiration of his period of redemption. Section 33. Deed and possession to be given at expiration of redemption period, by whom executed or given. If no redemption be made within 1 year from the date of the registration of the certificate of sale, the purchaser is entitled to a conveyance and possession of the property, or, if so redeemed whenever 60 days have elapsed and no other redemption has been made, and notice thereof given, and the time for redemption has expired. The last redemptioner is entitled to the conveyance and possession, but in all cases the judgment obligor shall have the entire period of 1 year from the date of the registration of the sale to redeem the property. The deed shall be executed by the officer making the sale or by his successor in office, and in the latter case shall have the same validity as though the officer making the sale had continued in office and executed it. Upon the expiration of the right of redemption, the purchaser or redemptioner shall be substituted to and acquire all the rights, title, interest and claim of the judgment obligor to the property as of the time of the levy. The possession of the property shall be given to the purchaser or last redemptioner by the same officer unless a third party adversely to the judgment obligor. Section 34. Recovery of price if sale not effective, revival of judgment. If the purchaser of real property sold on execution, or his successor in interest, fails to recover the possession thereof, or is evicted therefrom, in consequence of irregularities in the proceedings concerning the sale, or because the judgment has been reversed or set aside, or because the property sold was exempt from execution, or because a third person has vindicated his claim to the property, he may on motion in the same action or in a separate action recover from the judgment obligee the price paid, with interest, or so much thereof as has not been delivered to the judgment obligor, or he may, on motion, have the original judgment revived in his name for the whole price with interest, or so much thereof as has been delivered to the judgment obligor. The judgment so revived shall have the same force and effect as an original judgment would have as of the date of the revival and no more. Section 35. Right to contribution or reimbursement. When property liable to an execution against several persons is sold thereon, and more than a due proportion of the judgment is satisfied out of the proceeds of the sale of the property of one of them, or one of them pays, without a sale, more than his proportion, he may compel a contribution from the others, and when a judgment is upon an obligation of one of them, as security for another, and the surety pays the amount, or any part thereof, either by sale of his property or before sale, he may compel repayment from the principal. Section 36. Examination of judgment obligor when judgment unsatisfied. When the return of a writ of execution issued against property of a judgment obligor, or any one of several obligors in the same judgment, shows that the judgment remains unsatisfied, in whole or in part, the judgment obligee, at any time after such return is made, shall be entitled to an order from the court which rendered the said judgment, requiring such judgment obligor to appear and be examined concerning his property and income before such court or before a commissioner appointed by it at a specified time and place, and proceedings may thereupon be had for the application of the property and income of the judgment obligor towards the satisfaction of the judgment. But no judgment obligor shall be so required to appear before a court or commissioner outside the province or city in which such obligor resides or is found. Section 37. Examination of obligor of judgment obligor. When the return of a writ of execution against the property of a judgment obligor shows that the judgment remain unsatisfied, in whole or in part, and upon proof to the satisfaction of the court which issued the writ, that a person, corporation, or other juridical entity has property of such judgment obligor or is indebted to him, the court may, by an order, require such person, corporation, or other juridical entity, or any officer, or member thereof, to appear before the court or a commissioner appointed by it, at a time and place within the province or city where such debtor resides or is found, and be examined concerning the same. The service of the order shall bind all credits due the judgment obligor and all money and property of the judgment obligor in the possession or in the control of such person, corporation, or juridical entity from the time of service, and the court may also require notice of such proceedings to be given to any party to the action in such manner as it may deem proper. Section 38. Enforcement of attendance and conduct of examination. A party or other person may be compelled, by an order or subpoena, to attend before the court or commissioner to testify as provided in the two preceding sections, and upon failure to obey such order or subpoena or to be sworn, or to answer as a witness or to subscribe his deposition, may be punished for contempt as in other cases. Examinations shall not be unduly prolonged, but the proceedings may be adjourned from time to time, until they are completed. If the examination is before a commissioner, he must take it in writing and certify it to the court. All examinations and answers before a court commissioner must be under oath, and when a corporation or other juridical entity answers, it must be on the oath of an authorized officer or agent thereof. Section 39. Obligor may pay execution against obligee. After a writ of execution against property has been issued, a person indebted to the judgment obligor may pay to the sheriff holding the writ of execution the amount of his debt or so much thereof as may be necessary to satisfy the judgment, in the manner prescribed in Section 9 of this rule, and the sheriff's receipt shall be a sufficient discharge for the amount so paid or directed to be credited by the judgment obligee on the execution. Section 40. Order for application of property and income to satisfaction of judgment. The court may order any property of the judgment obligor, or money due him, not exempt from execution, in the hands of either himself or another person, or of a corporation or other juridical entity, to be applied to the satisfaction of the judgment, subject to any prior rights over such property. If, upon investigation of his current income and expenses, it appears that the earnings of the judgment obligor for his personal services are more than necessary for the support of his family, the court may order that he pay the judgment in fixed monthly installments, and upon his failure to pay any such installment when due without good excuse, may punish him for indirect contempt,